reply to Gita again. Right, okay, so we are now in week two, and as we have promised to all of you in week two, in the first meeting, we are going to have a look at how to plan for technical description, whereby we are going to have a look at the 9 steps of planning a technical description. So these are the steps that you can follow or you need to follow in order to complete a technical description or to describe about a product. And then we are going to have a look at writing a technical description, okay, whereby we're going to have a look at the outline or the overview of a technical description, which will be very beneficial for all of you when you are planning for your first assessment, okay. And in the second meeting, we are going to have a look at the language used in describing an object or product. So we're going to look at the parts of speech, the simple present, and the active voice, okay. So by the end of this lesson, you will know how to plan for a technical description. So when you're going to describe about a product, okay, what are the things that you need to look for or to look at? And then secondly, you are going to have a look at how to write a technical description properly. So because when you are describing about a product, okay, you are actually talking about the different parts. Different parts regarding the what you call it, regarding the product that you are going to present, okay, or you're going to describe, right? Okay, so pardon me that I have looked at some of the submission of your work, okay. So as you can see on the screen now, uh, 25 of you have been assigned for the tell us about you activity, okay, and then 20 have submitted their work or turned in their work, and the same goes for the first activity over here. All right, only 21 out of 25 have submitted or given their responses to the first question, okay. Fret not, it is not compulsory, but I hope that you responded to the activity. And unfortunately, during this weekend, okay, I couldn't during the past weekend, I couldn't check your works one by one because I am currently in the process of moving into the new house. So I allocated my weekend to pack my things and also to arrange for transportation. I have not moving in to the new house entirely, but from time to time I have to do that. Okay, so I will try my very best to give my responses, okay, or feedback to the 2 activities that you have completed earlier as soon as possible. Okay, all right. So let's recap of what you have learned, or what you have read. Okay, regarding the what you call it, the technical communication or technical descriptions earlier. So this is the slide, or these are the slides that you have gotten from Kalam, okay, and also from Google Classroom that I have created for you, okay. So basically, this is just like a refresh of what you read and to check whether you really understand of what you have read, okay. So a technical description means, okay, a detailed discussion of the physical details and quantifiable aspects of an object. So please take note on the word detailed discussion over here. So when you are involved with a technical description, you are going to be very detailed, specific, okay, in the sense. And then you are looking at the physical details. Okay, what are physical details? You're going to talk about the product in the sense of color, shape, the size, the texture, okay, materials of construction and everything. Okay, so you have to be very specific. And also you're going to look at the quantifiable aspects of the object or the product. So quantifiable meaning that you can count or you can measure. Okay, for example, all right, you're going to describe about a huge or large machine. So that is going to be one machine. Okay, that is about technical description in general. Then Okay, you are going to meet or found these technical descriptions commonly in web pages, sales brochures, reports, manuals, articles in magazines. Okay, for example, last year I'm planning to buy a new laptop. Okay, so I plan to buy a new laptop. So where do I get the information from? I search through the website or the web pages of the laptop manufacturer, for example, HP, Dell, and also Apple. Okay, and then I read thoroughly through all of the laptop models available. Okay, and then I read all the technical description about each of the model. Right. So let's say I am looking at two different operating system. Okay, number one is going to be Intel. The other one is using AMD processor. So I look at the differences between these two. Okay. Then I will also be looking at the RAM provided. Okay, random access memory. Okay. So normally the laptop that I search in the web pages or the online sale brochures. Okay, last year, right, it stated that each laptop is equipped with at least 4 gig of RAM, 4 gigabyte of RAM. Okay, and then what are other things offered? So basically, these are the information that you can see in the web pages or the sale brochures, and it falls under the category of technical descriptions because it describes about the product in detail. Okay, it describes about the product in detail. Okay, and then when you are describing about a product in detail, okay, or in technical aspect, you are actually using the part or part by part approach. So let's say a product consists of many parts. So when you are describing about the product, okay, or the object, right, you are going to describe about it according to the part. Okay, main parts. How many main parts are there? What are the sub parts? For example, so that is the approach that you're going to use when you are describing about a product, okay, or when you are involved with technical description. Okay, next slide over here, we have the sources of description. So when it comes to sources of description, these are the elements that you are going to use when you are describing about product. For example, the purpose of having the product, what is the size, the shape, the color, the dimensions, okay, length, height, width, depth, and such, okay. What are the materials used to produce that particular product, or maybe certain parts of the product, methods of attachment, okay. If you notice some of the product that you have in the house, for example, okay, it is attached using a screw, maybe, or some of it attached using glue. So it depends, right? And then what is the capacity or the volume, okay, or the amount of that product? For example, okay, I am planning to buy a new water tank, okay, and the capacity of the water tank is 1,000 liter, right? So I know that the tank can fill or can cater the capacity of 1,000 liters. So it means that it is very technical. Okay, you describe about it in a technical aspect. So these are the sources of description. But when it comes to your first assessment, okay, just to let you know, this is very important as well. It doesn't mean that you have to have all of the sources of description when you are describing about each of the part, okay, or each of the product. So sometimes, okay, let's say when you're describing about a product, okay, you have 5 main parts, for example. So each of the main part may consist of different sources of description. So it is not going to be the same entirely. All right. Okay, let's have a look at the example given here. Okay, as you can see, this is an example of a stapler. Okay, so you have 9 main parts of a stapler here. Okay, and of course, maybe, okay, for certain product, there are no sub parts at all. So it consists only of main parts. For example, here, as you can see, you have only 9 parts, but it is not stated how many main sub parts are there. Okay, right. So when you are describing about a product, okay, in technical description, you're going to use the part by part approach. As you can see, it started with handle, then it goes to hammer, all right, and then it goes to cream area, base, anvil, carrier, pin, and staples. So this is how you are supposed to explain about a product whereby you use the part by part approach. Okay, this is the activity that you have done, I believe. Okay, we're going to have a look at the activity afterwards. All right, so any question about the technical description, class? Any question?
So far, no, sir.
All right, so I believe that you have done your prior reading regarding technical description, so you know what is it about, okay, and how you're going to organize your technical description, and that is what we are going to do today. Okay, let's have a look at planning a technical description. So if you go to Kalam, okay, if you go to Kalam and then you click week 2, right, you can see this slide, okay, planning a technical description, okay, planning a technical description. Okay, let's have a look. What does it mean by planning a technical description? So basically, there are 9 strategies, okay, there are 9 strategies. Let me. Okay, so there are 9 strategies to plan for an effective technical description. So these 9 strategies over here will be helpful for you when you are planning for a technical description, especially if you're going to deliver it effectively. Okay, so number 1, you need to identify the subject or the product that you are going to present. For your information, okay, for your first assessment, you need to discuss among you in a group, okay, what is the product that you're going to choose, and then you need to get my approval. Okay, why? Because, okay, give me 1 minute, I need to drink that water. Okay, because why? We have a list of banned products, meaning that, okay, some of the products in the list, okay, not some of the products, all of the products in the list are banned because it is not new, something that is not recent. It has been already in the market for like quite some time, and it is too common. For example, smartphone. Okay, for example, smartphone. If you are going to elaborate more about smartphone, it is like normal, too common. Okay, so I hope by the end of the day today, or maybe latest by tomorrow, okay, once I got the approval from the coordinator, I will share with you the list of the banned products so that you will have a clearer picture of what is the product that you can choose to present. Okay, that you can choose to present. All right, that you can choose to present. Okay, uh, Givita is still having problem to log in, unfortunately. Okay, I will respond to her as soon as possible after this. Okay, all right, so you need to identify the subject or the product that you're going to choose. So there are 3 of you in a group, or maybe it is a pair, so it's going to be 2 of you. So based on the list of the banned product, you decide what is the product that you're going to present. Okay, then number 2, define the purpose and audience for the description. So for the purpose over here, your presentation is going to be maybe to cater 2 kind of purposes. Number 1 is to inform your audiences about the product, and then number 2 is going to be maybe to persuade your audiences to buy or to use your product. Okay, for your first assessment, you are going to assume that you are working with a company, and then you are representing the company in an online exhibition whereby you are going to showcase the product produced by your company. Okay, so that will be your purpose of giving the presentation. And who will be your audiences? Okay, so your audiences can be people with technical background, and also with for people without technical background. Okay, so when you are presenting, bear in your mind that, okay, you are going to have different or varieties of audiences. Some of them might know the technical aspect of the product that you are presenting. All right. Some of them may not know what is the technical jargon being used. Okay, so technical jargon here refers to technical terminologies. Maybe you are familiar with engineering terminology, but you are not familiar with medical terminology. So when you are going to describe about a product afterwards, okay, for your first assessment, make sure you are using the easiest and the simplest language so that everyone can understand what are you trying to say. Okay, so that will be number two. Number three, you need to do some research regarding the product. So luckily we are living in 2021, so everything is going to be by tapping the search button in online search. So you need to search about the object or the product online, okay? And then you need to find all the relevant information regarding the product. So you need to know how many parts are there, what are the main parts, what are the sub parts, how it works, what are the materials used for each of the part, okay? Or maybe you can look at the aspect of sources of description when you're going to describe about each of the main parts or the sub parts of the product, okay? And if you remember for assessment 1A, whereby you are going to prepare an infographic, okay, so you need to find the picture of the project or the product or the object, okay, from the internet, and then you're going to use it in your poster, okay? So of course we need to eliminate some parts of copyright, and I will teach you on that thing. Okay, that will be on number three. For number four, you need to identify the parts and subparts. What are the main parts? What are the subparts? Okay, for each of the product that you are going to present. And it is normal that sometimes when you found a product, okay, that you're going to showcase or describe, you couldn't get any subparts at all. So it is normal. So maybe a product can consist only of the main parts. That's it. Right? No problem about that. Number five, you need to select what are the sources of description that you are going to use for each of the main parts or the subparts. Okay, what are the sources of description? And sometimes when you're describing about main part A, okay, you're going to use this kind of sources of description. But when you are describing about main part B, okay, you are not going to use the same sources of description that you have been using before. So it is normal, no problem about that. Okay, number six, use specific language. So specific language here, let's say if you're going to describe about a supercar or a fast car, right? So instead of saying that the car is fast, what you can do is that you go into the can be driven up to 250 kilometer per hour. Okay, so that is one example on how you can be specific. Okay, or if you are planning to describe about the latest SUV produced by Perodua, so instead of saying that it is a SUV, so you can mention that that is the latest Perodua Ativa SUV. So you go very specific. Okay, number seven, plan and develop graphics. Okay, this is going to be helpful because you need to look for the relevant graphics to describe more about your technical description. Okay, remember, people can understand better if you have the diagram, if you have the illustration, compared to just words. Okay, so that is going to be for number seven. Number eight, plan a format. Okay, I'm going to share with you the format or the outline afterwards. And number nine, review and revise. So once you have done with your part, okay, let's say there are three of you in a group, what you can do is that you can review what you have prepared for the technical description, or you can also ask your group members, okay, you swap parts that you have prepared, and then you swap among you, and you ask your friend to give their feedback regarding your presentation, what you have prepared. Okay, and if there is any correction, any amendment, then you need to revise the content. Okay, revise here meaning do the correction. All right. So that will be the 9 strategies to plan for an effective technical description. Okay, let's go into detail one by one. Okay, number one, identify the subject or the object or the product. Okay, so you have to be clear about the object that you're going to describe, whether it is an object such as a stapler or computer, or is it a product such as shoes or wallet, or is it a software, programs, or application. So in this context, for example, if you're going to describe about the laptop in front of you, so you just need to describe about the laptop, but not about the software or the applications that you can install in the laptop. Okay, because if you do so, you are actually describing about two different products. So you just stick to your original plan. Okay, if you're going to present about a laptop, then you just need to present about it. Okay, number two, define the purpose and audience for the description. Define the purpose and the audience for the description. Okay, so you need to clarify what is the purpose. So as I mentioned to you, whether it is informative or persuasive presentation. Okay, so informative is going to be very simple. Your task is just to inform your audiences. That's it. But to persuade is going to be a bit difficult. Okay, why? Let me end the show. I need to add in your friends. Okay, all right. Okay, so if you're going to persuade your audiences, it's going to be a bit difficult. For example, if you go to the shopping mall at the concourse area, you have people selling their products. Okay, for instance, okay, they are selling the wonderful blender. So when you watch the presentation and at the end of it, when you tend to buy the product, it means that they have successfully persuade you to buy the product. So it is not very easy because you are asking people either to buy your product or to use your product. Okay, so what makes your product different compared to the one existing in the market? Okay, so this thing we will be discussing about it in detail next week in week 3 when we are going to have the briefing session for your first assessment. Okay, so the second question here, what you want from your audience, is going to be the same like over here, whether to inform or to persuade them to buy or to use your product. And please consider your audience whether they are in the general public or experts. So as I have mentioned, bear in your mind, they can be those with technical background and also those without technical background. All right, so you cannot assume that everyone that comes to your booth during the online exhibition will be the same. Okay. Number 3, research the object. All right, so that you can know more about the product and how it works and what are the materials used to produce the product. Okay, let's say one of your group members suggested about this product and you have zero knowledge about the product. So how to know more about it? So you can ask your friends to explain, or you can also at the same time go to the internet and then search for it. Okay, that is about researching the object. Next, identifying the parts and subparts. Okay, for example, given here, a computer, the description might be described by first partitioning it into monitor, keyboard, external disk drive, and a central processing unit. So in a computer, most probably you're going to have 4 main parts. And sometimes, okay, for each of the main part, there are several other subparts. Okay, let's say in monitor, when you're going to describe about the monitor, the subparts can be the casing of the subparts. And for example, if you're going to explain about it, maybe you're going to say that it is made from steel, or it is made from aluminium, or it is made from plastic. Okay, and then you can also describe about the other subparts on the monitor, the casing, okay, maybe the cable or the ribbons behind it. Okay, that is about the monitor. Okay, and then if you're going to describe about a simple wooden pencil, it can be the lead, the wooden barrel, the eraser, okay, and the metal clip. So altogether, there are 4 main parts for a simple wooden pencil as well. So if you're asking me, sir, how many main parts that we are supposed to explain? So it depends on the question and the instruction given to you afterwards. Okay, previous semester, right, we asked the students to describe 6 main parts for each group. So there are 3 of you. Each one of you are going to present 2 main parts or subparts. If it is a pair work, you need to describe 4 main parts or subparts of the product. So it means that individually you need to describe still 2. Okay, so I hope I answer your question. How many parts are there? So for each group is going to be 6 main parts or subparts, and then for a pair it's going to be 4 main parts or subparts. Right, then once you have identified all the main parts and the subpart, you're going to use you're going to select the sources of description. Remember, not all sources of description are applicable for each of the main parts. Sometimes it's going to be different. Okay, so please be very careful when you are selecting your sources of description. Okay, number 6, use a specific language of terms. So as I have mentioned to you, when you're describing about the latest sports car, instead of saying it in general like this, then you can be very specific. Okay, or if it is a fast car, then you can say it is drivable up to 250 kilometers per hour. Okay, so that is the example on how you can present using specific language. Okay, plan and develop graphics. So you need to find this and you need to use it in your infographic and also in your presentation. Assessment 1A is infographic. Assessment 1B is going to be presentation. Okay, when you have this kind of diagram or graphic, it is going to be useful for people to identify what are the main parts that you are going to highlight in your presentation and also in your infographic. Okay, so starting from, hopefully once you have gotten the look at the list of the banned products, okay, you will know what is the kind of product that you can look for, and then you can start looking for it and try to find all of the relevant materials as I have shared with you today. So for example, if you're going to select electric grass trimmer, okay, so you need to know what are the main parts and the subparts, and you need to be able to find the images or graphics that can be used to explain more about each of the main parts of the subparts of the product. Okay, so you need to plan and develop the graphics. Number 8, plan the format. Okay, I'm going to share with you the actual format of this and some example. And lastly, to review and to revise the content. Okay, so this is a common problem, spelling. All right, when it comes to infographic, please be very careful on the spelling wise. Okay, so we have done on planning for a technical description. So any question, everyone? Class.
Hi, sir. Sir, I have a question.
Yes, any question?
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. Sir, I just want technical stuff. Is it only like how can I say only refer to all physical stuff, is it? Let's say we take software. Can we talk about technical on software as well?
Can you do something on?
Or let's say because most of the example sir explained was all on like mostly physical stuff like stapler, cars, and all right. How
Mhm.
about like software? Because they also have some technical parts, right? For example, let's take a VPN. They have a world's fastest server and too. So is it necessary like this technical stuff only refers to physical, or can we talk about software as well?
Okay, if you are going to explain about software, right, you must be able what are the main parts and subparts that you can get from software. So that is going to be a bit difficult compared to a tangible product. Tangible meaning that something that you can see and you can touch. Okay, so a software, of course, you can touch the CD, but once it is installed, you cannot like physically touch the software there. Okay, so while we are talking about technical description in this context, because all right, we need you to find product that is tangible. Okay, you can see and you can touch the product, and then later on, when you're going to start working, maybe you're going to use the same concept, but when you are explaining about the software, you're going to use other sources of description. Remember, okay? So for sources of description over here, right? So we have many kind of sources of description. For example, orientation of parts. So if you're talking about, for instance, okay, the ribbons to generate the image, okay, to display the image on the screen. So you can say that the part appears to be behind or below the screen or the monitor. Okay, that is one example. So if you are asking me whether to find something that is very concrete, something that you can see and you can touch, okay, my answer is yes. Okay, please find a product that is tangible. You can see and you can touch it. Compared to a software, when it comes to main parts and subparts, you're going to have problem. And then when you are going to describe about the features, the functions shouldn't be a problem because it's going to be easier, except that when you're describing it in forms of sources of description, you will be facing some problem. Okay, how about the
Okay.
other?
I do have another question as well, sir.
Yes, Kishan.
Um, Sir, let's talk about okay, for example, sir gave a picture, right? So during our task, let's say we took a car, we took picture, we need to take a specific, is it like picture means picture, or must name the particular car, is it, sir?
All right. So let's say, okay, in general, all right, you're going to talk about proton, for example, proton cars. Okay. So you are going to explain only about the engine of the proton. So there must be a specific name for the engine. Okay, like CPS, CFE. All right. Okay. So that engine name is going to be very specific, and there are other main parts and subparts from the engine itself. You have the cover, you have the what you call it, the belting and such, and then inside of it you have the subparts, you have the valve, you have the piston, you have the gasket and everything. So when you are describing about a car, for example, okay, you choose only one part of it instead of the rest of it. Or you can also talk about the whole thing as a product, okay, the car itself, but you focus on the main parts, let's say the door, the upholsteries, okay, the engine, for example, okay, and maybe the tires. All right. So that is how you can describe about the product. Am I answering your question, Kishan?
Yeah, yes, sir. Sir, thank you, sir.
All right, you're welcome. How about the others? Do you have any other question? Class, how about the others? Do you have question?
For now, no, sir.
Okay, all right. So how to write a technical description? Okay, so this one is taken from this thing. Okay, this handout here in week 2, writing a technical description. Right, this is how you can organize your technical description. So you can put the title. Okay, let's say if you're going to explain about Peugeot, okay, the Peugeot car or Proton or Pro Duo, Produa Activa. So you just write it here, Produa Activa. Okay. In the introductions, what are the things that you need to include? All right. And then given here an example, you need to describe of three main parts or subparts. Okay. So because it is stated here, if any, meaning that, okay, if you couldn't find any subparts of the product, then shouldn't be a problem. Okay, because each of the product must consist of a main part. Okay, for example, if you're going to describe about an electric kettle, okay, so you have the handle, you have the lid, you have the container or the body of it, then you have the heating element at the bottom of it. So you have all of these main parts, and when you attach it together, it comes to one product. Okay, all right. So if you're asking me, is it going to be the same like what you're going to do for your assessment one? Yes, it is. But okay, the number of main part and the subparts will be a bit different depending on the instruction. Okay, and last semester, all right, each group is required to describe about 6 main parts for a product, 6 main parts or subparts of the product. All right. So that is the reason why I need you to discuss after this. Okay, not today, but in a group. What is the product that you're going to choose? Okay, and I'm going to give you as well the list of the pen products so that you can check on it, and then whether you are able or possible to get the main parts or the subparts or not. Okay, so please be very careful and then go thoroughly through the list. Okay, when you are able to find the product, get my consent, and then if it is approved, double check whether you can get at least 6 main parts. Okay, if it is going to be a group work. Okay, next we have the example here. Okay, workhorse flashlight. This is the name, the detail or the title, and then you have the image or the graphic here, and then you have the introduction. Okay, description of main parts and subparts. All right, so main part one and subparts. Okay, so main part one consists of the body, the battery compartment, and the switch. So there are 3 main parts for main part one. Okay, for main part two or subparts, okay, these are actually the subparts of main part one. Okay, and then for main part two and subparts, you have the bulb assembly, you have the reflector, you have the bulb, and you have the connector. Okay, so each part in a product may consist different subparts. Each part can also consist of no subparts at all. Okay, so it is normal. No worries about that. All right, so this is an example of how you can plan and organize your presentation or description about the product. Okay, question class?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right, I hope that you really don't have any question regarding it, or you really understand what's going on. Okay, all right, so since that we have another hour left, okay, and maybe you can use some more time during our second meeting, so I'm going to give you an activity, okay, on writing a technical description. Okay, so you can get this activity in Kalam as well. Writing a technical description is the same, all right, and over here I have downloaded it for you. So in group you can use, okay, my suggestion, please use the same group that you have listed for what do you call it, listed for your first assessment. Okay, and this is the most suitable time that you can check whether your group members, the one that you have selected to be in your group, can work with you or not. All right, so your task in group, write a 1-page technical description, only 1 page of one of the objects below. So there are 10 products, choose only one. Okay, so use the technical description outline and include graphics to illustrate the object. So this is the technical description outline, right? And then you need to an image or graphic that supports or elaborate more regarding your technical description. So let's say if you choose hair dryer, so the introduction, okay, and then you can put the image of the hair dryer, okay, Panasonic hair dryer, for example, and then you have all the main parts or the sub parts. Okay, so this is going to be a group work, and where to submit this, all right, if you go to Google Classroom, okay, the one that I have created for you, and the technical oral presentation, you go to week number 2, and then find this heading, okay, writing a technical description. So for each pair, right, your submission is only one, or is each pair or each group. Okay, if you're working in a group or in a pair, only one submission is required. Okay, so if there are 3 of you, each one of you, you don't have to submit it, except that only one for each group or each pair. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Understood, sir.
Okay, all right. So great. Thank you for understanding of what you are supposed to do. Okay, so that will be your task for today. No due date. Okay, within this week, I'm going to check your submission, previous submission for the 2 activities, and then if it is possible, I am going to check your activity today, the one that I've given to you. Okay, so no due date. It can be up until next week, but hopefully by next Monday, okay, in the third week meeting, when we're going to talk about your first assessment, okay, you have done that as a premonition of what you're going to do for your first assessment. Okay, remember your first assessment, you're going to prepare for assessment 1A, the infographic, and then for assessment 1B is going to be technical oral presentation, whereby you're going to present about the product that you have chosen, and you have transferred the information into the infographic. Okay, so that will be your task this week. Any question, class?
No, sir.
Okay, right. Do you know what you are supposed to do?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you have question, if you need further clarification, you can always ask in our WhatsApp group, okay, or you can text me personally. But for any activities or assessment, it is better for you to ask in the group, so that once I answer it, everyone can have a look at the answer. Okay, so remember, your task, choose one of the products over here, and then you write your description together with the graphic. And then once you have completed this, you save it in PDF form. It is better. Go to Google Classroom, look for this heading, writing a technical description, and you submit it there. Okay, so that is what you are supposed to do. You still have an hour to go to discuss. Okay, I will try my very best to get the list of the banned product so that you can have a look at the product that you cannot use anymore for the presentation. Okay, right. So if there is no other question from all of you, I would like to say thank you very much for joining me today. All right, so I'll see you when I see you, and you are now free to leave the session. Okay, Amal, if I want to make correction for the past activity, yes, you can, no problem. Okay, feel free to do the correction. Okay, so that's all from me. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
you can now leave the session. Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
All right,
you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.